While the weather might not be overly exciting here in the UK or Ireland at the moment, we certainly have a continuation of plenty of stuff going on elsewhere around the world, whether it be a new December record for Spain, possibly even for Europe as well, or what's going on within the stratosphere. The areas of high pressure that we're seeing over Siberia is something worth paying attention to. It looks as if it's triggering some very powerful heat fluxes from troposphere up into the stratosphere. We'll look at all of that in the upcoming 10 to 15 minutes or so. Thanks for clicking on to the Wednesday edition of Vogan's European Outlook. Hope everybody is safe and well wherever you are. Are you prepared for Christmas yet, or is it going to be a last minute rush to get all the gifts collected for the friends and family? Certainly here at Marvin Weather HQ, we're pretty organised actually. We went into Inverness back on Saturday and got our last minute bits and pieces. Cards have been posted, so I'm quite confident now that everything that needs to be spent has been spent, and all the gifts have now been bought. Let me know in the comment section below, are you organised for Christmas this year, or are you still rushing about to try and get bits and pieces collected up? This is a tweet, by the way, published on the 20th of December 2020, and Oymyakon reached a temperature of minus 57.2 Celsius on that Monday due to a significant 1076 millibar area of high pressure. Why am I showing you this? A tweet from late December 2020. Well, if you look at the situation over Russia at the moment, we have got some very cold air now. Granted, we have seen a temperature rise, a very steep temperature rise in parts of northeastern Siberia in the last week or so, but you can see that a lot of very, very cold conditions reside across parts of western Russia, down into Kazakhstan, Mongolia, southern portions of Russia. Now, we do have record-breaking warm conditions over eastern portions of China and down across India, into the Middle East, and into eastern portions of Africa. Eastern Europe has seen record warm temperatures lately, and of course we've got the very cold conditions over Scandinavia at the moment. That has been a continuation of what we've seen already. But if we look at the chart here, this is rather interesting. So this is the if I can get to the right chart, it would help. Now, what I think is quite interesting is we did see temperatures in excess of minus 58 Celsius in the last week or so in parts of eastern Siberia. But I want to draw your attention to the pressure in over parts of southern Russia. You can see here, close to the Mongolia-Russian border, we've got a 1071 millibar area of high pressure. That is a very powerful area of high pressure. Now, to me, there could be no connection, or there may be a connection, but about 2 weeks after the occurrence, or a few weeks after the occurrence of this mega monster ridge of high pressure, which isn't hugely out of the ordinary, by the way, we've seen a major sudden stratospheric warming take place. That then led to a very powerful Arctic outbreak in February 2021 and produced the UK's coldest temperature since 1955 for February. It was the coldest temperature overall since 1995. And all I'm saying is, when you look at this here and the time frame of this, considering what's going on within the tropospheric polar vortex and also the stratospheric polar vortex, is this some sort of harbinger of what's to come down the road? That is going to be the big question. But we've got that 1076 millibar area of high pressure over southern portions of, not that far off, the same location, by the way. And we've seen the development of a sudden stratospheric warming take place. To the best of my knowledge, I'm sure it was the end of middle or second half of January, if not early February. It might have been. I can't remember actually, and I should remember. But I thought that was quite interesting here, given what we're seeing at the moment with regards to very powerful heat fluxes transferring energy out of the troposphere into the stratosphere over both North America as well as East Asia here. And is this setting the wheels in motion? So you can see here very strong warming taking place. This is the 10 HPA temperature anomaly, by the way. And you can see that we've got a lot of colder than average conditions within the 10 millibar level over the Atlantic, over the UK, into Europe here. But note the strong warming taking place, possibly due to mountain torque, that release of energy over this region of the world, then putting pressure on the stratospheric polar vortex, pushing off the center. We're seeing that warming now transfer down into North America. That should start to allow height rises to take place over the Arctic region towards the end of this month and beginning of January here. Remember, I think if we are going to see a sudden stratospheric warming, it will be in January, possibly the beginning of January. But watch this space as we play through this loop here. This is now the middle to second half of December. This is off the GFS model, by the way. Been referring a lot to the ECMWF, but this is the GFS anyway. You can see the very strong warming taking place, but notice where we're seeing the warming. It is now over the top of the pole, down towards Greenland, the Baffin Straits here. That is more what we're wanting to see if we're going to get a split or displacement of, well, we're seeing essentially a displacement of the vortex now, but are we going to get a complete collapse of the vortex, or are we going to see a split? One piece going into North America, the other piece going into Europe here. But that is a very significant warming take place. Is it sudden stratospheric warming criteria? Possibly not, but that is certainly very noteworthy. Let's have a look and see what the 10 millibar temperature and height profile is looking like. And that is a very interesting look for sure. We'll need to watch this space. Remember, if this happens, and it is still a big if, it would be 2 to 3 weeks after the event that we would see the response taking place, if we do see that. Remember, there has been SSWs like 2019 that did not deliver cold to Western Europe here, and that has to be get taken into consideration here. So looking at the heat flux situation, you can see a very noteworthy warming taking place. If I can get back to the right chart, it would certainly help. Sorry, just bear with me 1 second here. And you can see here, this is the heat flux that's taking place. So there's the map underneath here representing where that warming is taking place. So we're seeing it over the Siberia to North America side of the pole here. And that is helping weaken and slow down the decelerate the mean zonal winds within the stratosphere over top of the pole, and causing that major displacement of the vortex. Very interesting times to come, by the way. I do encourage you, if you haven't already done so, be sure to subscribe to marfoganweather.com here on YouTube. I'm looking at the big picture as opposed to just what's going on here and locally. Now, another interesting thing, Magellan Oscillation, it's rotated now into phases 6. It's expected to go into phases 7 for the Christmas period here. That is significant. That tends to support increased blocking both over the Arctic and over the North Atlantic. And you can see here it's expected to rotate by the time we reach the New Year period into phases 8 and 1. That is us going back to where we were. That started off the cold at the end of November, first 10 days or a week or so of January here, December, sorry. So watching what's going on within the stratosphere, watching what's going on within the Magellan Oscillation, and if that's not enough, we may have record warm December nights to come here in the UK, particularly so for Scotland, not so much probably for England, Wales, or Northern Ireland, by the way. And in order for us to get that, we need to have a strong area of high pressure building over the southern half of the UK, with winds running around the west to northwest periphery of that high pressure. We'll get there in just a second. So there's that powerful area of high pressure now sliding eastwards, helping cause the displacement of that polar vortex, I think, anyway. Let me know in the comment section below if I'm right or wrong with that. I know there's people on this channel that watch these videos that probably know a lot more than what I do. But you can see here there's that area of low pressure that brought more wind and rain to the UK here. We've had a heck of a wet pattern back in place once again since that dry opening 5-6 days of December. Now, what is going to also be interesting is the very wet spell that we've had. we had a very, very wet spell October and November that possibly highlighted this is a Joe Bastardi theory as well, by the way, that may have allowed us to see where the cold was going end of November, beginning of December. We're seeing that very wet pattern once again now. Is that going to then set the scene for where the cold trough is going for the Christmas New Year period? That remains to be seen, of course. But there's that area of low pressure scooting off to the east. We've got another system moving in from the west here. Then we've got the building of high pressure to the west of Iberia. That is going to then start to build its way into the southern half of the UK. Keeping a close eye on heavy rainfall over the far northwest of the British Isles here. May see some significant rain amounts through the Outer Hebrides, Northwest Highlands, down to Argyll here. That frontal boundary running along the top of that. We've actually got a bit of a connection all the way to the Caribbean with this setup. But look at that pressure pattern here. 1050, 1042, 1044 millibar area of high pressure. Now, underneath the lighter winds across the bulk of England and Wales, near the centre of that high, we've got cooler nights. But further north with the wind, especially with mild air getting drawn all the way from northwest Africa, the Azores, right around the area of high pressure, we're going to start to increase the temperature during the overnight in particular, and this would be in conjunction with the Föhn effect. So those winds blowing over those mountains, descend on them, they compress and heat up. Now, what is going to be interesting is how warm do we get with this setup. Now, I believe 12.5 Celsius for an overnight minimum is the Scottish record for December. That may need to be watched as we go through the next few nights here, but not so much tonight because it's actually below freezing across the north. But in the coming nights, Friday into Saturday, possibly Saturday into Sunday, with a strong west to southwesterly wind, milder in place also, we're going to hold the temperatures likely in double figures across the north. We'll need to watch that record for Scotland in particular. But you can see here this plume of moisture extending from the subtropics all the way around the top of the high, bringing some fairly wet conditions the weekend into early next week across the north. High and dry across more southern and central portions of both Ireland and the British Isles here. And you can see as we play through this loop that eventually what happens is that high then shifts over to the North Atlantic. That allows more of a northwesterly flow. And you know the script, the models are still indicating a wintry flavour to our weather in the days leading up to Christmas here. We will look specifically at the UK and Ireland for the Christmas to New Year period, really anywhere from the 23rd up until New Year in the days ahead. So stay tuned for that. But this is certainly a very, very interesting situation. It's an extreme situation. Look at this here, 1038 millibar high over the central North Atlantic here. We've got a 1035 millibar area of low pressure on the Norwegian coast, and that is a bitterly cold discharge of air straight into the UK from the Arctic here. Very, very speculative, very, very hard to buy into this right away, but certainly that would be a significant plunge of cold air on Thursday the 21st. And then as we play through the loop, you can see here reinforcing shots of cold air, area of low pressure coming down from the north here. Is that a phase 6 into 7 into 8 reflection of the MJO? Is it even something to do with the tropospheric polar vortex wanting to come down into Europe? Very complex but interesting situation nonetheless. And then you see with the GFS, it tries to have milder moving in from the south, colder continuing to draw down from the north, and of course you've got that battle between the Arctic and the Atlantic fighting it out in the period between Christmas and New Year. Very interesting, very exciting times to come. So I do, like I said already, encourage you to keep it right here on marthaWinweather.com on YouTube here. Looking also GFS 850s. This is the ensemble here for Inverness. So 5,000 feet above Inverness, we've got that rise then fall then a steep rise warming over the weekend to +5 Celsius. Down to London, you can see that we've got quite a sharp warming, 850 temperatures all the way up towards 10 Celsius, and even Manchester in the centre of the UK, we've got that strong warming taking place over the course of the weekend. Here's a good example, UKV model, 3 o'clock Saturday morning, temperatures of 11 or 12 Celsius on the Murray coast. That is very, very warm conditions for this time of the year. So covered long enough. Enjoy the rest of your day, and I'll see you again tomorrow with more. Bye for now.